Hey guys, tonight we are diving deep into the strange and rigid world of ancient Sparta. Not the version you see in the movies with the slow motion fight scenes and epic one-liners, but the quiet, bizarre, and often uncomfortable reality of their daily lives. We're going to place you right at the very beginning of a Spartan's life. And a fair warning, you might not even make it past the first 24 hours. No pressure. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. I always love seeing where you're all listening from, so drop your city and the current time in the comments below. It's like a little global campfire we've got going on. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. The first thing you feel isn't warmth. It's not the soft embrace of your mother. It's the sharp, dry air of Laconia on your skin, and the unsettling sensation of being held aloft by rough, unfamiliar hands. You've just entered the world, your lungs have just tasted air for the first time, and already you are being judged. Your first cry echoes faintly against a backdrop of stone and sky, a tiny personal protest against the cold indifference of your new reality. You are a Spartan. In these first few moments is not yet guaranteed. You are carried out of the simple, whitewashed room where you were born. The hands that hold you are strong, steady, but not gentle. They belong to a male relative, perhaps your father, his face a mask of stoic anticipation. He walks with purpose, away from the sounds of the household, towards a place of grim importance. You can't see it, your vision is still a milky blur, but you can feel the landscape changing. The ground becomes uneven. The wind picks up, carrying the scent of wild thyme and dust. Looming in the distance, a silent, jagged silhouette against the sky, is Mount Taygetus, and somewhere on its slopes is the place the elders gather, the place of decision. You arrive. A small group of men are await you. They are old, their faces carved with the lines of countless summers under a harsh sun and the memory of battles you can't yet comprehend. This is the Gerusiae, the Council of Elders, the ultimate arbiters of your fate. You are presented to them like an object, a piece of equipment to be assessed for quality. One of them takes you. His grip is surprisingly firm. He turns you over, examining your tiny limbs, your back, the shape of your head. HES not looking for cuteness. HES searching for imperfections, for any sign of weakness or deformity that might render you a liability to the state. A burden. This is the infamous Spartan practice of infant inspection. Any child deemed unfit, too small, too frail, or born with any noticeable defect would be condemned. You feel a strange, cold liquid being splashed over you. It stings. It's wine. This isn't a baptism, it's a crude, early form of a bit of trivia from the historian Plutarch suggests Spartans believed that bathing a newborn in wine would reveal its constitution. A weak or epileptic baby would supposedly go into convulsions, while a strong one would temper and firm up, like steel quenched in water. You, thankfully, just squirm and let out another angry cry, your skin tingling. The elders murmur amongst themselves in their clipped, laconic dialect. Their voices are low, dispassionate. They are not cruel men, not in their own eyes. They are gardeners pruning a precious crop to ensure the health of the whole orchard. Sparta is a small state surrounded by enemies and a massive, subjugated population of helots, who would revolt at the first sign of weakness. There is no room for sentiment. Every citizen must be a thrall, a cog in the military machine. Every woman a mother of warriors. Now, for the part everyone remembers from the movies, the cliff. History and Hollywood have painted a picture of babies being dramatically tossed from a precipice, but historians still debate the grim specifics. The location was known as the Apio the Tay, which translates to the deposits or the place of rejection. It was likely a chasm, a deep cleft in the rock, not necessarily a sheer cliff face. And the act itself may have been one of exposure, not a violent throw, abandoned to the elements to fate. A subtle but crucial difference between active murder and state-sanctioned neglect. A chance, however slim, that you might be found and raised by someone outside the Spartan system, perhaps a helot family. But for you, on this day, the murmuring stops. There is a slow, deliberate nod. Your limbs are straight. Your cry is strong. The wind did not break you. You are deemed worthy. You have passed your first and most fundamental test. You are handed back to your father, who accepts you with the same stoic expression he arrived with. But perhaps, just perhaps, there's a flicker of something in his eyes. Relief, pride, you'll never know. Your small body wrapped tightly, your future now a straight, hard line stretching out before you. You don't know it yet, but this is the kindest, most straightforward test you will ever face in your life. The real challenges haven't even begun. The 7 years that follow are a brief, deceptive calm. You grow not in the rugged wilderness of the mountains, but within the simple walls of your family home. You feel the warmth of a hearth fire in winter and the cool of a stone floor in summer. You know your mother's face, the cadence of her voice, the only source of true softness in your world. She teaches you stories, not of gods and heroes from far-off lands, but of Spartan valor, of Leonidas of the Thermopylae, of men who chose death over dishonor. It's a childhood, but a curated one, a prelude. Every lesson, every game, is tinged with the knowledge that this is temporary. You are not truly hers. You are on loan from the state, and the loan is about to be called in. The day arrives without fanfare. You are 7. A man comes to your door. He is the paternomos, the boy herder, or one of his deputies. He is a figure of immense authority, appointed by the state to oversee the single most important institution in Sparta, the agoge. The brutal, all-encompassing training system that will take you from a boy to a man, a citizen, a soldier. Your father stands beside you, his hand on your shoulder. There is no negotiation. His face is impassive, but his grip is tight. This is the natural order of things, the moment he has prepared for since the day he carried you back from the elders. Your mother stands in the doorway, her face a carefully constructed mask of Spartan composure. But you see it, the flicker in her eyes, the tightening of her jaw. It's the last time you will see her express anything resembling maternal tenderness for a very, very long time. You are led away. You don't look back. You've been taught that looking back is a form of weakness. You join a small, shuffling line of other 7-year-old boys, all with the same look of quiet apprehension. You are marched to a place that will be your home, your school, and your prison for the next 13 years. The barracks. The change is immediate and absolute. The first thing they do is cut your hair, shearing it close to the scalp, a symbol of shedding your individual identity. They take your clothes. You are handed a single garment, just one, a simple raw-spun tunic dyed a dull crimson. This is your uniform for the entire year, through the baking heat of the Peloponnesian summer and the damp, biting chill of winter. You will learn to endure. That is the first lesson. You are assigned to a herd, an age law, under the command of an older boy, usually a 20-year-old who has already completed his own training. He is your immediate superior, your tormentor, and your role model. The barracks themselves are stock. Stone walls, a packed earth floor, and a roof that does little to keep out the cold. There are no beds, no mattresses. That night, you are led to the banks of the Eurotas River. Your task is to gather reeds. Not with a knife, that would be too easy. You must snap them off with your bare hands, creating a rough, prickly bundle to serve as your bedding. It's a small, practical lesson in self-sufficiency and pain tolerance. As you lie down on your makeshift bed, the sharp ends of the reeds poke into your back, a constant reminder of your new station in life. The curriculum of the agoge is a subject that historians still piece together from a patchwork of outside sources, primarily writers like Plutarch and Xenophon, who looked upon Sparta with a mixture of awe and bewilderment. They described the physical training, the running, wrestling, boxing, the javelin and discus throwing. They detail the drills designed to instill absolute obedience. But what the day-to-day existence truly felt like, the texture of the fear, the forging of bonds in the crucible of shared hardship, that is something we can only imagine. It wasn't a school in any modern sense. Reading and writing were taught, but only to a functional level. You needed to be able to read orders and write your name, nothing more. The real education was in deprivation. You are deliberately, systematically underfed. The food at the communal mess is bland, meager, and never enough to satisfy the gnawing hunger of a growing boy. This is by design. It serves two purposes. First, it is believed to make you taller and leaner, a more effective warrior. Second, and more importantly, it encourages you to steal. If you are caught stealing food, you are not punished for the theft itself, but for your incompetence in getting caught. The whipping you receive is severe, a lesson in stealth, cunning, and the art of survival. Hunger becomes your constant companion, a dull ache in your stomach that sharpens your senses and fuels a desperate creativity. The paidonomos is an omnipresent figure, his presence a constant threat. He carries a whip, and it is used frequently and without hesitation. For any infraction, a moment of hesitation. A sloppy drill, a word spoken out of turn. This isn't about sadistic cruelty, it's about conditioning. You are being broken down. Your individual will dissolved and reforged into a single, collective mind. Lying on your bed of reeds that first night, surrounded by the quiet whimpers and restless shifting of other boys, the memory of your home feels like a story from another life. You are cold, you are hungry, and you are utterly alone, despite being packed in with dozens of others. This is the agoge, and your transformation has just begun. Days blend into a monotonous cycle of grueling physical exertion and gnawing hunger. You run until your lungs burn, wrestle until your muscles scream, and stand at attention until your body aches with stillness. But one day, the routine is broken. You are led to a large, dusty field on the edge of the city, near the banks of the Eurotas. And there you see them, the girls. This isn't your first time seeing Spartan girls, of course. You've seen them in the streets, with their families. But this is different. They are not demurely weaving or carrying water jugs. They are training. Just like you. A group of them, ranging from young children to teenagers on the cusp of womanhood, are running races in the dust, their bare feet kicking up clouds of earth. Others are practicing the javelin, their movements surprisingly powerful and precise. A few are wrestling, their bodies locked in grappling contests with the same fierce determination you see in the boys' barracks. And most startlingly, many of them are exercising in a state of near nudity, sometimes a short, simple tunic, but often nothing at all. They are completely unsubconscious, their focus entirely on the physical task at hand. For a boy raised in the austere, all-male environment of the agoge, this is a profoundly confusing sight. You've been taught to suppress all emotion, to view everything through the lens of utility and discipline. Yet, seeing them, their strength, their freedom stirs something unfamiliar. It's not desire, not in the way an outsider might understand it. It's a strange mix of curiosity and perhaps even a flicker of resentment. Why are they allowed a freedom that feels so different from your own rigidly controlled existence? You soon learn the brutally practical Spartan logic behind it. This isn't about female empowerment or sexual liberation in any modern sense. A famous quote attributed to Lycurgus, the mythical Spartan lawgiver, sums it up. Why should the bearing of children be a matter of levity? The state demanded strong warriors, and the prevailing belief was that strong parents produced strong offspring. Therefore, a Spartan woman's primary duty was to be a physically robust vessel for procreation. Her fitness was a matter of state security, so they trained. They developed their bodies not for aesthetic appeal, but for strength and endurance. They ran, they wrestled, they threw the discus and javelin. They competed in public festivals, sometimes alongside the men, their athletic achievements celebrated. The historian Xenophon, an Athenian who greatly admired many aspects of Spartan society, noted this with approval, contrasting it with the sedentary lives of Athenian women, who were confined to their home. He argued that Spartan women were more capable of bearing vigorous infants because of this rigorous physical education. And the nudity to the rest of the Greek world, this was a source of endless fascination and scandal. Athenians, who kept their women secluded and cloaked, saw it as a sign of moral degeneracy. But for the Spartans, it was purely functional. It allowed for freedom of movement and was seen as a way to promote physical health and hardness. Plutarch explains that it was intended to accustom them to simplicity and to make them take an interest in their own physical condition. He adds, rather charmingly, that it was meant to remove all affectation and effeminacy and squeamishness. There was, according to these ancient writers, nothing licentious about it. The girls' nectancies was seen in the context of athletic competition, stripped of the erotic charge it might carry in another culture. Of course, whether it truly was entirely devoid of any eroticism is one of those questions historians love to debate. The human element can never be completely legislated away. But in the formal public sphere, the purpose was clear. You, as a young boy in the Agoge, are taught to see these girls not as potential romantic partners, but as future producers of soldiers. Their athletic bodies are, in essence, state assets, just like your own. There's a strange, cold equality in it all. While the rest of Greece was hiding its women away, Sparta was parading them, testing them, strengthening them. A weird, little-known fact is that Spartan women were famous throughout Greece for their wit and confidence, likely a direct result of this public-facing, physically demanding upbringing. They weren't just baby makers, they were expected to be tough, capable managers of households and estates, especially when the men were away at war, which was often. As you stand there, watching a teenage girl expertly hurl a javelin further than you probably could, a new understanding of your society begins to dawn on you. It's a society of radical pragmatism. Every tradition, no matter how strange it seems to outsiders, has a purpose. And that purpose is the absolute, unwavering security and dominance of the state. You turn away from the field, back towards your own drills, the image of the running, wrestling girls seared into your mind. It's a powerful, unsettling lesson in Sparta. Even the bodies of women belong, first and foremost, to the phalanx. The sun beats down on the training grounds, but the heat is nothing compared to the fire in your belly. It's a constant, low-grade ache that defines your existence. Hunger. It's the first thing you think about when you wake on your bed of reeds and the last thing you feel as you try to sleep. The rations provided at the communal mess are a cruel joke: a ladle of black broth, a small lump of hard bread, maybe a piece of cheese if you're lucky. The infamous Spartan black broth, a concoction of pork, salt, vinegar, and pig's blood, was legendary for its terribleness. A visitor from Sybaris, a city known for its luxury, once tasted it and declared he now understood why Spartans were so willing to die in battle. This state-sanctioned starvation is a core tenet of your education. The elders believe it makes you grow tall and lithe, not fussy and sluggish from being overfed. But its true purpose is pedagogical. It's meant to teach you discipline and, more importantly, to force you to become resourceful. You are actively encouraged to supplement your diet by stealing. But this comes with a critical, brutal caveat: getting caught is the only crime. The act of stealing is praised as a sign of cunning and initiative. The failure of getting caught is proof of incompetence, a weakness that cannot be tolerated. So your life becomes a double existence. By day, you are the disciplined soldier in training, obeying every command without question. By night, you become a hunter, a shadow. The farmlands and storehouses on the outskirts of the city, worked by the ever-present helots, become your hunting grounds. You learn to move in silence, to read the patterns of the moon and stars, to know the blind spots of a god. Your senses, sharpened by a perpetually empty stomach, become preternaturally keen. You can smell baking bread from 100 paces away. You can hear the rustle of a fig tree in the wind and know if its fruit is ripe. One night, your small group from the barracks decides to attempt a raid on a nearby storehouse. Your target, a wheel of cheese. It sounds simple, but it's a high-stakes mission. You creep through the darkness, your bare feet making no sound on the packed earth. The air is cool and smells of damp oil and livestock. Another boy, older and more experienced, leads the way. He signals with hand gestures, a silent language of command you've all been forced to master. You reach the storehouse, a simple wooden structure. The door is barred. You work together using a thin, hardened stick to slowly, carefully lift the wooden latch from the outside. Every creak of the wood sounds like a thunderclap in the silence. Inside, the air is thick with the smell of aging cheese, dried meats, and grain. It's intoxicating. You locate your prize. The leader gestures for you to grab it. As your fingers touch the cool, waxy rind, a dog barks outside. A light appears in the window of the nearby farmhouse. Panic flashes through the group. You scramble out, clutching the cheese, and melt back into the darkness, your heart pounding in your chest. You've made it. Back in the safety of the woods. You and your comrades devour the cheese in savage, silent bites. It's the most delicious thing you've ever tasted. It's not just food, it's victory. But you've also seen the consequences of failure. A few weeks ago, a younger boy from your age law was caught trying to steal a loaf of bread. He wasn't just scolded. He was dragged before the entire group, and the pays de nommers administered the punishment. The boy was tied to a post and whipped, not with a flimsy switch, but with a stout, leather scourge. The boy didn't cry out. He bit his lip until it bled, his body convulsing with each lash. But he made no sound. To cry out would have brought even greater shame upon him. The punishment wasn't for stealing. It was for his clumsiness, his lack of skill. He had failed the test. This brutal logic extends to everything. There is no room for excuses, no sympathy for failure. It's a harsh but effective method of weeding out the weak and fostering a culture of extreme competence. This particular aspect of Spartan life, the state encouraging theft as a training exercise, was a source of bafflement to other Greeks. It seemed a complete contradiction. How can you build a society on discipline and obedience while simultaneously teaching children to be proficient thieves? The answer, of course, is that both skills serve the state. A soldier needed to be obedient in the phalanx, but he also needed to be able to live off the land, to forage and raid enemy territory effectively during a campaign. Historians still debate the precise balance of this system. Was it a constant, desperate struggle for survival, or a more ritualized, game-like part of the training? The truth probably lies somewhere in between. But for you, a boy living it, the hunger is very real. And the fear of the whip is even more so. You learn your lesson well. Survival depends not on strength alone, but on cunning, silence, and the ability to operate in the shadows. You are being forged into a perfect weapon, one that can follow orders by day and kill silently by night. The hunger is just the tool they use to sharpen the blade. As you grow older, moving from a boy into a youth, the dynamics within your age law begin to shift. The simple hierarchy of the older boys commanding the younger ones becomes more complex, more personal. You begin to notice a particular kind of attention being paid to you by one of the older youths, an Iren. He is a young man of about 20, who has completed his GE training and now serves as a prefect, tasked with supervising your group. His name is Damon, and carries an air of quiet authority that all the younger boys admire. One day during wrestling practice, he singles you out. He doesn't just correct your form, he takes you aside, demonstrating the subtle shifts in weight, the precise application of leverage. His instruction is patient, intense. Afterward, he shares a piece of his own meager ration of bread with you, a small but significant gesture in this world of institutionalized hunger. This is the beginning of a new kind of relationship, one that is central to the Spartan social fabric, yet deeply misunderstood by outsiders. This is the start of your institutionalized pederastic relationship. In ancient Sparta, it was not just common but expected for an adolescent boyites, the listener or beloved, to be taken under the wing of an older male citizen or youth hostess, the lover or admirer. This was not a clandestine affair but a structured public, and in its own way, formal part of your education and social development. Damon has chosen you. His reputation is now tied to yours. Your successes in training will bring him honor, your failures will bring him shame. The nature of these relationships is one of the most hotly debated topics among historians of ancient Greece. Was it purely a mentorship, a platonic bond forged in the crucible of military training, or was it overtly sexual, an accepted part of a warrior culture where male companionship was paramount? The ancient sources themselves are contradictory. Xenophon, the great admirer of Sparta, insists that Lycurgus designed the system to be purely about character and virtue. Erotic expression was considered disgraceful, as shameful as incest. He portrays it as a noble mentorship, where the older man's love for the boy was a love for his potential, his burgeoning courage and honor. Plutarch, writing centuries later, but with access to older texts, paints a more nuanced picture. He agrees it was primarily about education and character building, but he acknowledges the powerful emotional, and yes, romantic, component. He likens the bond to a form of honorable love, a deep affection that inspired both parties to greatness. The older man was expected to be a role model, a father figure, and a teacher, responsible for molding the boy into a perfect Spartan citizen. The boy, in turn, was expected to be a devoted and obedient pupil, eager to learn and prove himself worthy of the affection. In your daily life, this relationship translates into a constant stream of guidance and scrutiny. Damon pushes you harder than anyone else in drills. He inspects your single tunic for cleanliness, your bed of reeds for neatness. He quizzes you on Spartan history and lore. But he also protects you. He might intervene if another older boy is bullying you unfairly. He shares his knowledge, teaching you the unwritten rules of the barracks, the subtle social cues of the mess hall. It's a relationship of intense intimacy, forged in a world that otherwise forbids emotional vulnerability. The erotic element, despite any finesse protests, likely existed. Whether it was the norm or the exception is what scholars still argue about. The context is crucial. In a society where men lived almost exclusively with other men until the age of 30, and where marriage was a functional, non-romantic duty, deep emotional and physical bonds were naturally going to form between men. A little-known fact is that some sources suggest that pairs of lovers were expected to fight side by side in battle, their devotion to each other fueling their bravery. The idea was that a man would fight more fiercely to protect his beloved and to prove his own valor in his beloved's eyes. Your bond with Diamond becomes the central pillar of your teenage years. You strive to impress him, to earn his quiet nod of approval. His presence is a constant pressure and a constant comfort. He is the one who teaches you how to endure the pain, how to master the fear, how to think like a Spartan. This is not the romance of poetry or song. It is a harsh, practical, and deeply profound connection, born of shared hardship and mutual obligation. It is a love story written not in ink, but in sweat, not in ink, but in sweat, blood, and a silent understanding between two warriors bound together by the unforgiving laws of their city. It is through this bond that you will truly learn what it means to be a man in Sparta. The air is thick with anticipation and the smell of roasting meat, a rare and intoxicating scent that makes your perpetually empty stomach clench. Today is a special day, a religious festival in honor of the goddess Artemis or Thea. Her sanctuary lies near the river, a place you normally avoid. But today, the entire city, it seems, has gathered. This is not a day of rest and feasting in the way other Greeks would understand it. In Sparta, even religious festivals are a test, and today's test is one of legendary brutality. In front of the altar to the goddess, a pile of cheeses has been placed. Simple, flat wheels of goat cheese. To you, they might as well be solid gold. The goal of the ritual is for you, and the other boys of the Agoge, to steal as many cheeses as possible from the altar. The altar is guarded by the Eriness, the older youths armed with whips, and they are not ceremonial whips. They are heavy, leather scourges, and the men wielding them are not holding back. This is the Diamaster Goes, is a ritual of flogging that became so famous it eventually attracted tourists from all over the Roman Empire centuries later, who would sit on specially built stands to watch the bloody spectacle. But for you, it's not a spectacle. It's a rite of passage. You stand with your group, your heart hammering against your ribs. You look at Damon. He stands among the floggers, his face impassive. He will not show you any mercy. In fact, he will likely be harsher on you than on anyone else to prove his impartiality and to test your mettle. The signal is given. The first boys rush forward. The air fills with the sharp, sickening crack of leather on skin. The boys who reach the altar grab a cheese and try to scramble back, all while the whips rain down on their backs, their legs, their arms. There are no screams, no cries of pain. That is the first and most important rule. To make a sound is to fail utterly. It is to bring shame upon yourself, your family, and your mentor, a mask of grim determination on your face. It's your turn. You take a deep breath, the dry, dusty air searing your lungs. You sprint towards the altar. The world narrows to a single path. You see a gap. You lunge for it. The first blow catches you across the shoulders. It feels like a line of fire, a white-hot shot that takes your breath away. You stumble but don't fall. You keep moving. Another lash catches your leg, nearly buckling it. You reach the altar, your hand closes around the rough texture of a cheese. The prize. You turn, shielding your face with one arm, the cheese clutched to your chest. The whips are a blur of motion. Eyelash catches you on the ribs, and you taste blood in your mouth from biting your tongue to keep from crying out. You see the faces of the floggers, grim and focused. They are not angry. This is not punishment. It's a duty. It's a religious offering. According to some ancient writers like Pausanias, the belief was that the altar of Artemis or Thea had once been stained with human blood from a quarrel, and an oracle demanded that it be appeased with blood each year. The whipping ritual was a way to satisfy the goddess without resorting to human sacrifice. A bizarre, but very Spartan piece of theological problem-solving. Whether that origin story is true is, of course, debated by historians. Some see it simply as the ultimate test of endurance arteria, a core Spartan virtue. It was a public demonstration of the agoge's success, producing boys who could withstand extreme pain without complaint. You keep moving, one foot in front of the other. The pain is no longer a series of sharp impacts, but a single, roaring fire consuming your entire body. You reach the edge of the circle and collapse. The cheese, still held tight. You have not made a sound. Other boys lie on the ground around you, their backs crisscrossed with bloody welts. Some are unconscious. Putush claims that in his day, he had seen many youths die under the lash at this very ritual. To die in this contest was considered a great honor. You lie there gasping, the coppery taste of blood filling your mouth. Daemon walks over. He looks down at you, then at the cheese in your almost imperceptible nod. It is the highest praise you could ever hope to receive. You have passed. You have offered your pain to the goddess. You have proven your courage to your city, and you have honored your mentor. As you drift into a haze of pain and exhaustion, you clutch the cheese. It is more than food. It is a trophy, paid for in silent agony. A symbol of your worth in a city that values nothing more than the strength to endure. The pain from the dire mastigos eventually fades into a latticework of scars on your back, a permanent testament to your endurance. But the lessons of the agoge are not always so physical. Your mind, too, is being shaped, chiseled into a specific, functional form. And a key part of that is learning how to speak, or more accurately, how to not speak. In a world where the Greeks, especially the Athenians, prized rhetoric, philosophy, and the art of eloquent persuasion, your education is starkly different. You are taught the art of laconic speech, named after your own region of Laconia. It is the practice of using the fewest possible words to convey the maximum possible meaning. Brevity is not just a stylistic choice, it is a virtue, a sign of a disciplined mind. Long-windedness is considered weak, self-indulgent, and slightly foolish. Your training in this is constant and informal. In the mess hall, during discussions led by the older men, you are expected to remain silent unless spoken to. When you are asked a question, your answer must be pithy and sententious, full of meaning but stripped of any fluff. By rambling or poorly considered answer, but sometimes a swift punishment, the story goes that the older men would sometimes bite their own thumbs in frustration at a boy's foolish word, a strange but apparently effective deterrent. You learn through stories and examples. The tales of Spartan wit are legendary, repeated as moral lessons. You hear about the time King Philippi of Macedon, Alexander the Great's father, was sweeping through Greece. He sent a threatening message to Sparta: you are advised to submit without further delay, for if I bring my army into your land, I will destroy your farms, slay your people, and raze your city. The Spartan Epiphors, the elected magistrate, sent back a reply of a single word. Understated confidence of that response is held up as the ideal. It communicates everything: defiance, courage, or warning without a single wasted syllable. This verbal austerity shapes your entire worldview. There is no room for philosophical debate about the meaning of life or the nature of justice. Justice is obedience to Spartan law. The meaning of life is service to Sparta. The world is a simple, brutal place, and your language reflects that. It is a tool for command, for clear communication in the heat of battle, and for sharp, Cutting humor. Ah, the humor. Spartan humor is as dry and harsh as the landscape itself. It's a weapon used to test the resilience of others and to demonstrate one's own mental toughness. It's often insulting, designed to probe for weaknesses. If a boy is overweight, he will be mercilessly mocked for it, as it will be brought up again and again in the form of a cutting joke. The purpose isn't just cruelty, it's a form of social conditioning. You must learn to take insults without flinching, to respond with an equally sharp but brief retort, or to endure the shame in stoic silence. It's mental armor plating. A fascinating little known aspect of this is how it contrasted with the education of Spartan women. While you are being taught to be a man of few words, Spartan women were renowned throughout Greece for being unusually articulate and witty. The famous quote from Gorgo, wife of King Leonidas, is a prime example. When a woman from another city asked her, "Why are you Spartan women the only ones who can rule men?" Gorgo supposedly replied, "Because we are only ones who give birth to men." It's a perfect example of a laconic retort, sharp, proud, and utterly silencing. The freedom and education they received, so different from other Greek women, gave them a confidence that often expressed itself verbally. The curriculum of the agoge. The years in the agoge have stripped away your boyish wonder, replacing it with a hardened pragmatism. You find yourself once again watching the girls train by the river. The initial shock you felt as a 7-year-old has long since evaporated. Now, you see them not with confusion, but with a cold, clear understanding forged in the fires of your own relentless training. You watch a teenage girl, her muscles taut, launch a discus with a powerful spin. Her form is flawless. And you don't see a girl, you see a crucial component of the Spartan war machine. You have finally and fully internalized the state's logic. These girls, your future wives and the mothers of your future comrades, are not training for their own glory or for the aesthetic appeal of a toned body. They are being forged, just as you are. Their gymnasium is the anvil, and the goal is to create the perfect vessel for producing the next generation of warriors. Their health, their strength, their very physical being, is a matter of public policy, the state's broodmothers. This understanding is the bedrock of Spartan eugenics, a concept that your society practices with an unnerving lack of sentimentality. The belief, reinforced daily, is simple: strong parents beget strong children. Just as you would breed the best horses for a cavalry or the strongest dogs for a hunt, the state ensures the human stock is of the highest possible quality. And that process starts here, with these girls running bare-legged in the dust. A girl who is a fast runner, a strong wrestler, a skilled thrower is seen as a prime candidate for marriage. Not because she is beautiful, but because she has demonstrated her physical excellence. She is a sound investment for the future of Sparta. The ultimate expression of this ideology is how your society treats childbirth. It is seen as a woman's battlefield, her moment of supreme trial and service to the state. This brings us to a stark and revealing piece of Spartan custom. In your city, the honor of having one's name inscribed on a gravestone is reserved for only 2 types of people: a man who dies in battle, and a woman who dies in childbirth. This equivalence is absolute. Both have fallen in their designated service to Sparta. The man gave his life to protect the state today, the woman gave her life trying to create a warrior to protect it tomorrow. There is a brutal symmetry to it, a logic that is both terrifying and, in its own way, possessed of a strange dignity. Historians still wrestle with the inner lives of these women. The sources, written almost exclusively by men and often non-Spartan men at that, tell us what they did and why the state wanted them to do it. But they don't tell us how the women themselves felt about it. Did they internalize this ideology completely, taking immense pride in their physical prowess and their sacred duty as mothers of soldiers? Or was there a quiet resentment at being reduced to their biological function? Their lives so rigidly defined from birth, did they feel liberated by their physical freedom compared to their cloistered Athenian sisters? Or was it just a different kind of cage, albeit a larger and sunnier one? We have their famous witty remarks. But these are flashes of personality, not windows into their souls. You, however, don't have the luxury of such abstract debates. You live this reality. You watch the girl retrieve her discus, her face set with the same focused intensity you feel before a wrestling match. You know that one day, the state will pair you with a woman like her. Your meeting will be brief, your courtship non-existent, your marriage a matter of civic duty. Your children will be her contribution to the phalanx, her greatest offering. As you turn back to your own reels, the separation between the male and female spheres of your world feels less like a division and more like the halves of a single, well-oiled machine. You are the spear, they are the forge that makes the spear. One is useless without the other. This chillingly practical view of partnership, stripped of all romance and sentiment, is perhaps the most profound lesson the Ego-Ge has taught you. It's the logic of survival. The logic of Sparta. The logic of your world feels complete, a perfect, closed system of spear and forge. But you've only understood the machine, not the fuel that powers it. That lesson comes one autumn afternoon. You are now a teenager, strong and disciplined, and you are sent with a small group on a work detail outside the city. Your task is simple: to oversee a group of laborers harvesting olives on a state-owned plot of land. These are not Spartans. They are the Helots. Up until now, the Helots have been a part of the landscape, like the olive trees themselves. You've seen them in the city, making deliveries, their movements slow and deliberate, their eyes always downcast. You've stolen food from their farms in your nighttime raids. But you've never been truly among them, never felt the sheer weight of their presence. Today you do. For every one of you, there are 20 of them. Men, women, then children, all working the groves, their bodies weary from generations of servitude. You stand guard, leaning on your practiced spear, trying to project an aura of authority you don't quite feel. An older Spartan, a veteran with a scarred face and a limp, is in charge of the detail. He watches the Helots with a look of bored contempt. A Helot man, not much older than you, accidentally drops a basket of olives. They scatter across the dusty ground. The veteran doesn't shout. He walks over, his limp barely noticeable, and backhands the young man across the face. The crack is sharp in the quiet afternoon. The Helot stumbles but catches himself. He doesn't make a sound. He just looks at the Spartan. And for the first time you see it. It's not fear in his eyes. It's not submission. It's a flash of pure, unadulterated hatred, as sharp and cold as a shard of flint. It's there for only a second before his gaze drops back to the dust, but you saw it. The veteran notices you staring. He limps back over to you. See that he murmurs, his voice low. That's why you train until you bleed. That's why we leave the weak on the mountain. He gestures with his chin to the silent, twining crowd. They are the wolf we keep by the throat. The moment we relax our grip, they will tear us to pieces. This is your true introduction to the foundation of Spartan society. The Helots. They are not chattel slaves who can be bought and sold individually. They are a subjugated population, state-owned serfs tied to the land they work. Where did this vast population come from? Historians still debate their precise origins, but the prevailing theory is that they were the original inhabitants of Laconia and neighboring Messenia, conquered by your Dorian ancestors centuries ago. They were not brought in from outside, you live on top of them, on their ancestral land. And they outnumber you, the Spartiates, by a staggering margin. Estimates vary, but a ratio of 7 to 1, or even 10 to 1, is often cited. Your entire way of life, the Ego-Ge, the communal messes, the full-time dedication to military readiness, is only possible because you have an entire population working to feed you, clothe you, and free you from the burden of manual labor. Sparta is not just a city-state, it's a military barracks built on top of a vast, perpetually simmering prisoner of war camp. The veteran continues his lesson. We must remind them of their place. And we must remind our sons what it means to be weak. He tells you about a particularly cruel custom. At the Sys Citia, your communal dining halls, Helots are sometimes forced to drink a mixed wine until they are hopelessly drunk. Then, they are brought before the young boys of the Ego-Ge and forced to sing vulgar songs and perform clumsy, ridiculous dances. It's not for entertainment. It's a calculated lesson in negative modeling. See this, the elders would say. This is what it looks like to lose control. This is what a slave is. Never become this. It's a form of psychological warfare, a constant, ritualized humiliation designed to break their spirit and to instill disgust in you. Suddenly, everything clicks into place. The relentless straining, the sanctioned brutality, the obsession with obedience and endurance. It's not just about creating the perfect soldier to fight for an enemies. It's about creating the perfect prison guard to control a domestic one. The fear of a helot revolt is the ghost that haunts every Spartan. It is the unspoken terror that shapes every law, every custom, every waking moment. You look out over the olive grove again, at the sea of silent, resentful faces. The ground beneath your feet no longer feels solid. It feels like the thin crust of a volcano, and you are one of the few, lonely sentinels tasked with keeping it from erupting. The fear of the helots, once a vague concept, is now a visceral reality. You are nearing the end of your GE training. You are almost 20. You are strong, fast, and lethal. But there is one final test. A graduation exercise that is not a game, not a ritual, but a cold-blood act of terror. It is called the crypt TIA. The word itself means the secret thing or the hiding. Its exact nature is one of the darkest and most debated aspects of Spartan life. Was it a formal institution, a kind of secret police, or was it an irregular, ad hoc mission for the most promising youth? Plutarch, our main source for this grim tradition, describes it in chilling detail. The magistrates, the EP whores, would select the most sensible and capable young men and send them out into the countryside. You are given nothing but a dagger. No food, no cloak, no supplies. You are instructed to disappear, to hide by day and move by night. Your hunting ground is the helot territory of Messenia. Your prey is not animals, it is people. Your mission is to kill any helot you find out on the roads at night. The goal is twofold. First, it is a survival test for you. You must live off the land, remain unseen, and operate with absolute stealth and self-sufficiency. It is the ultimate final exam for the skills of theft and silent movement you have been honing since you were 7. The second, more sinister purpose is to terrorize the helot population. The crypt TIA is a two-love state-sponsored intimidation. It sows fear and paranoia, reminding the helots that they are never safe, that a Spartan blade can emerge from any shadow. The targets are not random. You are told to single out the strongest, most assertive, and most intelligent-looking helots, the ones who might have the potential to become leaders in a future revolt. It is a systematic culling of potential resistance before it can even begin. The night you leave is cold and moonless. You slip out of the barracks, just a shadow among shadows. The familiar discipline of the GE falls away, replaced by a profound and terrifying loneliness. There is no commander to give you orders, no comrade to watch your back. There is only you, your dagger, and the darkness. You move through the familiar landscape, but it feels alien now. Every rustle of leaves, every distant dog's bark, sets your nerves on edge. You hide during the day in thickets or remote ravines, gnawing on wild roots or whatever small creature you can catch. The hunger is a familiar ache, but this time it's different. It's coupled with a primal fear. You are not just a hunter, you are also prey. A group of helots, if they found you alone and weakened, might take their revenge. For the first time in your life, you feel vulnerable. On the third night you see him, a man walking along a path between two fields. He is tall and broad-shouldered, moving with a purpose that seems to defy his station. He is exactly the type you were told to look for. Your heart pounding a deafening rhythm in your ears. Your hand is slick with sweat on the hilt of your dagger. This is not a wrestling match with rules. This is not a ritualized whipping. This is murder. The man draws level with your hiding place. You spring. Your movement is fast, economical, exactly as you were taught. He has no time to react. The act is swift, brutal, and silent. You don't stay to look. You melt back into the darkness, leaving the body for his family to find in the morning. A grim message delivered. You feel a wave of nausea, a cold hollowness in your stomach that has nothing to do with hunger. But you suppress it. You are a Spartan. You have completed your task. This practice is so controversial that even ancient writers sympathetic to Sparta, like Plato, acknowledged its brutality. Historians continue to argue about its scale and frequency. Was it an annual event or a last resort, used only in times of particular unrest? A rulibus, a little detail, is that every year, upon taking office, the Spartan horse would formally declare war on the Helots. This was a legalistic maneuver. It meant that killing a Helot was an act of war, legally sanctioned by the state. This allowed you, and others in the cryptia, to kill without incurring religious pollution or legal consequence. You spend several more weeks in the wilderness, a ghost haunting the farmlands. You make another kill, then another. With each one, the act becomes easier, the nausea less pronounced. You are becoming what they designed you to be: inefficient, emotional as instrument of the state's will. When you finally return to the city, gaunt and filthy, but alive, you are no longer a boy. You have passed state of your education. You are a killer. You are ready to be a full citizen of Sparta. You have survived the agoge and the cryptia. You are now a man, a full citizen of Sparta. But your life is not your own. The state, having forged you into a weapon, now directs your personal life with the same dispassionate precision it used to direct your training. The next item on the agenda: marriage. For you, marriage is not a choice born of love or attraction. It is a civic duty, a legal requirement. The state mandates that all male citizens marry, for the sole purpose of producing more citizens, more future soldiers. In fact, remaining a bachelor past a certain age is not just frowned upon, it is a punishable offense. You've seen the older, unmarried men at certain festivals, forced to parade naked in the winter, singing songs about how they deserve their shame for disobeying the laws of Lycurgus. It's a powerful incentive to get on with it. So the process begins, but this is Sparta. There will be no romantic courtship, no serenades under a moonlit balcony, no awkward conversations with a prospective father-in-law. The process is secretive, strange, and frankly, a little bit ridiculous. It begins with an arrangement. Your family, or perhaps an older mentor, identifies a suitable bride for you. The criteria are purely eugenic. Is she healthy? Is she from a good family? Has she proven her physical fitness and her own training, her personality, her sense of humor, her dreams? These are irrelevant data points. Once a match is made, the wedding is arranged. And it is, in essence, a staged abduction. On the appointed night, you are to go to the house where she is waiting and capture her. This is not a violent act, but a ritualized one. A performance of masculine assertiveness. You arrive at her family's home under the cover of darkness. The door is left unlocked. You slip inside. She is there, in a darkened room, waiting. You might not have even seen her clearly before this moment. Perhaps you've only caught glimpses of her at festivals or during her public exercises. Now, in the gloom, you see her properly for the first time. But she doesn't look like a bride. Her head has been shaved, just as yours when you entered the agoge. She is dressed not in fine silks, but in a man's cloak and sandals. This strange custom, described by Plutarch, is a source of endless fascination for historians. What was its purpose? Scholars debate this endlessly. Was shaving her head away to ease the transition for a young man who had spent his entire life in an all-male environment? Making her initially less female was dressing her in men's clothes, a symbolic gesture, signifying that she too was a servant of the state, a soldier in her own right, or was it purely practical, to make the whole clandestine affair easier to manage, whatever the reason? It adds another layer of strangeness to an already bizarre ritual. She looks less like a blushing bride and more like another agoge recruit. You perform the ritual. You pick her up and carry her over the threshold. Not the threshold of your own home, you don't have one yet. You are still required to live in the barracks with the other men. You carry her to a designated, temporary location, perhaps a small, borrowed room. The abduction is complete. You have claimed your bride. The bridesmaid, an older woman who orchestrated the meeting, has left a simple bed and a dim oil lamp. There is no ceremony, no witnesses, no exchange of vows. Just the two of you in a dark room. It's awkward. You are both products of a system that discourages emotional expression and personal intimacy. You know how to obey orders, how to endure pain, how to kill. You do not know how to make small talk. You do not know how to be a husband. She, likewise, has been raised for physical prowess and civic duty, not for tender companionship. This entire ritualized abduction serves a very Spartan purpose. According to Xenophon and Plutarch, it was designed to ensure that your first encounters were not blunted by satiety. The secrecy, the stolen moments, were meant to keep the passion and desire high, which in turn was believed to lead to more vigorous and healthy offspring. It was a calculated attempt to engineer desire for the ultimate goal of procreation. After this first clandestine meeting, you do not set up a home together. You do not wake up next to your wife. Before the sun rises, you must slip away and return to your barracks, back to your comrades, your drills, and your communal meals. Your marriage must remain a secret. You are now a husband, but you must act as if nothing has changed. This is your new double life. Soldier by day, secret husband by night. Your life settles into a strange, bifurcated rhythm. By day, you are a soldier. You live, eat, and sleep in the barracks with the men of your SYS city in your dining mess. Your world is one of iron discipline, grueling training, and the rough camaraderie of the phalanx. You are subject to the same rules, the same rations, the same harsh jokes as every other unmarried man. To all outward appearances, you are still a bachelor. Your marriage is a secret you carry, a hidden current running beneath the placid surface of your public life. At night, you transform. Under the cloak of darkness, you become a thief again, but this time you are stealing moments with your own wife. You must be cautious. Getting caught sneaking out of the barracks would be deeply shameful. Not because visiting your wife is forbidden, it's expected, but because getting caught demonstrates a lack of the stealth and cunning that has been drilled into you for over a decade. It's a failure of your training. So you slip out using all the skills you honed during your food raids and your time in the crypt TIA. You move through the unlit streets of Sparta like a ghost, your bare feet silent on the packed earth. The city at night is a different world, quiet and filled with shadows. The fear of being seen by a patrol or an elder is a constant, thrilling pressure. You arrive at the house where she lives, still with her own family, and enter with the same practiced silence. Your time together is brief, furtive. Stolen hours in a dark room. You are to relative strangers, bound by law and duty, attempting to build a marriage in these fragmented encounters. The conversations are likely as clipped and practical as the rest of your Spartan education. You might talk of the day's training, of news from the city, of the health of the olive harvest. It is unlikely to be a conversation filled with expressions of love or deep emotional vulnerability. Your culture has given you no language for such things. This bizarre arrangement could continue for years. It was not uncommon for a Spartan man to have fathered several children before he had ever seen his wife in daylight. Think about that. You could be a father, your wife could be a mother, and yet your primary residence is still a military dormitory. You are a husband and father who only visits his family like a secret lover. The purpose of this, according to the ancient writers who were so fascinated by your customs, was manifold. Plutarch argues that it kept your desire for each other fresh and potent, preventing the indifference which is the result of satiety. By making access to your wife difficult and risky, the state was, in its own strange way, trying to keep the spark alive, believing that children conceived from such passionate, energetic encounters would be stronger. It was a form of psychological engineering aimed at producing the best possible human stock. It also served to reinforce the priority of your life, the state, before the family. Your primary loyalty was not to your wife or your home, but to the men of your mess hall, to the phalanx. Living in the barracks until the age of 30 ensured that the bonds between soldiers remained paramount. The family was a secondary concern, a private duty that must not interfere with your public one. Historians debate whether this system fostered a strange kind of romantic tension, or if it simply created profound emotional distance between spouses. Did the stolen moments feel exciting and precious, or just awkward and insufficient? There's a little-known, almost comical side to this. The system was designed to promote procreation, but the extreme secrecy sometimes backfired. There are stories of young husbands so terrified of being discovered who were too timid or inept to consummate their marriage for a long time. They were masters of the battlefield, but novices in the bedroom, a peculiar product of their upbringing. For you, these nightly visits are a strange paradox. They are a duty, an obligation to the state to produce an heir. But they are also a small, private rebellion. A moment of personal connection in a life that is otherwise completely public and collective. In the darkness, away from the prying eyes of the elders, and the harsh discipline of the barracks, you are not just a soldier. You are a husband. 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 The clandestine visits continue, a routine of stealth and secrecy. Months pass. One night when you arrive, you learn the news. Your wife is pregnant. A quiet, momentous confirmation delivered in the darkness. There is no public announcement, no celebration. But this changes everything. This is the moment your marriage fulfills its primary, state-mandated purpose. You feel a flicker of something. Pride, relief, it's hard to name the emotion. You've been trained to suppress such personal feelings. But you have done your duty. You have contributed a potential new soldier to the state. Your standing in the community, though unspoken, is now secure. You are no longer just a warrior, you are a progenitor. As the months of her pregnancy progress, your understanding of your wife's role sharpens. You were taught from boyhood that a Spartan woman's greatest purpose was to bear children for the state. Now, you see that ideology made flesh. Her body, once a symbol of athletic prowess, is now dedicated to this new, all-important task. Her identity is shifting. She is no longer just a daughter or a wife, she is becoming a mother of a Spartan. This reframes your entire relationship. You begin to understand that your wife is not truly yours in the way an Athenian might view his spouse. She does not belong to you, the individual. She belongs, first and foremost, to Sparta. Her womb is a public asset, a resource of the state. Your marriage is merely the legal and social mechanism through which that resource is utilized. It's a cold, functional perspective, but it's the very air you breathe. This concept is embedded in the famous sayings of Spartan women that were passed down through generations. The most iconic, of course, is the one you heard from your own mother as a child. The farewell she gives to her son as he leaves for battle: return with your shield or on it. It's a statement of absolute commitment to the state over personal safety or maternal love. She would rather see you dead, carried home honorably on your shield, than have you return in disgrace, having thrown your shield away to flee. Her honor is tied to your bravery. Her identity as a good mother is defined by her willingness to sacrifice you for Sparta. You now realize that your own child will be born into the same system. If it is a boy, he will be judged by the elders of the Apiodate, just as you were. If he is deemed worthy, he will be raised by his mother for 7 years, and then he will be taken from her, just as you were. Her role is to instill in him the values of the state, to prepare him for the agoge, to sever the maternal bond willingly for the greater good. If your child is a girl, her path is also set. She will be raised to be strong, athletic, and disciplined, groomed to become the mother of the next generation of warriors. Your wife will oversee her training, teaching her to run, to wrestle, and to understand that her body's ultimate purpose is to serve the state through procreation. This is a stark contrast to the rest of the Greek world. In Athens, a wife was the private property of her husband, her role confined to the domestic sphere. Here, your wife is a public figure with a public duty. Her success as a person is measured by the quality of the children she produces. A little known but telling fact is that Spartan women who bore multiple healthy sons were held in particularly high esteem, celebrated for their contribution to the city's strength. The system is designed to subordinate all personal feelings to public obligation. The love between a husband and wife, the bond between a mother and child, these are secondary. They are allowed to exist, but only so long as they do not interfere with one's duty to Sparta. Historians debate whether this created a society of emotionally stunted individuals, or if Spartans simply found different, less public ways to express affection. Did your wife feel a deep, personal love for the child growing within her? A love that she knew she would have to suppress for the sake of the state, or was her pride in fulfilling her civic duty the dominant emotion? As you slip away from her house before dawn, returning to the masculine world of the barracks, the thought stays with you. You are a partner in the state's ancient project. Your wife, the secret chair of your nights, is the lead operator. And the product of your union will not belong to either of you. Your child is born. It's a boy. He survives the inspection by the elders. You are now a father. Yet, your daily life remains unchanged. You still live in the barracks. You still eat your meals at the communal mess. Your primary identity is still soldier, not husband or father. Your connection to this new family you've created exists almost entirely in the abstract, and in the few stolen hours you manage each night. There is no concept of a nuclear family in the way the modern world understands it. You, your wife, and your son do not form an independent, private unit. You are three individual cogs in the state machine, with distinct and separate functions. The idea of a shared home, of private family dinners, of a life built around shared intimacy and mutual support, is completely alien. This is a world with zero romance, a social structure actively designed to prevent it. The very architecture of your life is anti-romantic. Your days are spent with men. Your nights are a brief, functional visit to a woman you barely know. The relationship with your wife is not nurtured through shared experiences or emotional disclosure. It is a relationship of duty, proximity, and biology. The state needs children. You and she are the tools to create them. The process is intentionally stripped of the sentimental attachments that other cultures cultivate. Why would a society do this? The reasoning from the Spartan perspective is brutally logical. Romantic love, and the intense loyalty to a spouse and family that it fosters, is a threat to the state. A man who loves his wife more than his city might hesitate in battle. He might put his family's welfare before the collective good. Sparta cannot afford such divided loyalties. Therefore, the institution of marriage is structured to minimize the risk of developing a powerful, private emotional bond that could compete with one's public duty. This lack of a romantic focus is evident in every aspect of your union. There are no anniversaries to celebrate. There is no exchange of gifts. Your value to your wife is not measured by your kindness or affection, but by your status as a warrior and your ability to produce healthy offspring. Her value to you is measured by her fertility and her adherence to Spartan ideals. It is a partnership that feels more like a business merger than a marriage. A strange and often overlooked detail that highlights this is the role of jealousy. In a system with such a detached view of marriage, a certain amount of marital flexibility was not just tolerated, but sometimes encouraged. The concept of wife sharing, which we will get to, is the most extreme example. But even on a smaller scale, the idea of exclusive, romantic possession was weak. The state's need for strong babies trumped any individual's claim to monogamy. So what does intimacy look like in this environment? It's a question historians ponder. Perhaps it was found in small, unspoken gestures. A shared look across a festival ground. A moment of quiet understanding in a dark room. But the grand, sweeping romance of epic poems and plays, that's Athenian nonsense. Here, the most profound bonds in your life are not with your wife, but with the men you train with, what with the men you train with, fight with, and live with. Your relationship with your mentor Damon was likely more emotionally intense and formative than your relationship with your wife will ever be. Your loyalty to the men of your SYS city is your primary social connection. You watch your son from a distance. You see him when you visit your wife at night. You might see him playing with other small children in the city during the day. But you are not his primary caregiver. You are not his teacher. You are a figure who appears in the night and disappears by morning. His primary male role models until he is 7 will be the older men of his mother's family. Then, the state will become his father, just as it became yours. Your marriage is a paradox. It is essential for the continuation of Sparta, yet it is deliberately kept on the periphery of your own life. It is a public duty performed in private, a crucial relationship kept at arm's length. You are living in a carefully constructed emotional desert, all by design. The goal is to ensure that when the time comes for you to march to war, you will think only of your duty to the phalanx, not of the wife and child you are leaving behind. The sun rises, and your other life, the secret, nocturnal one, evaporates with the morning mist. You are back in the barracks, back in the world of men. The brief, stole intimacy of the night is replaced by the harsh, public reality of your primary social sphere. And the heart of that sphere, the true center of your universe, is not a home or a hearth, but a plain, unremarkable dining hall. This is the home of your SYS citizen. After you complete the agoge and are accepted as a full citizen, you must apply to join one of these communal messes. It is not optional. To be a Spartan is to eat with your comrades. This isn't just a meal, it's the core of your social and political life. The group consists of about 15 men, and you will eat with these same men every single night for the next 40 years, unless you are away at war. Your wife will not join you. Your children will never see the inside of this room. Men-only space. Getting in is your first major social test as an adult, and it is terrifying. The admission process is a masterpiece of passive-aggressive judgment. On the night of the vote, each of the 15 existing members is given a small bowl of soft bread. A large bowl or urn is placed in a central spot. One by one, each man walks past and drops his bread bowl into the urn without looking. If he approves of your membership, he drops the bowl in as it is. If he disapproves, he squeezes it flat in his fist before dropping it in. The bread is your ballot. A flattened piece of bread is a no vote, and the vote must be unanimous. You stand outside the room waiting while the 15 men who will determine your future file past the urn. You can't see the vote. You can only wait for the verdict. A single flattened piece of bread, a single dissenter, and you are rejected. You would then have to apply to another mess, bearing the shame of this initial failure. It's a system of silent rejection, so brutal, so simple, it's almost elegant. For you, thankfully, the vote is clear. No flattened bread. A wave of relief washes over you. You have been accepted. You belong. Now, you must hold up your end of the bargain. Membership isn't free. Every month, each member must contribute a precise amount of provisions from his own personal estate. His kale arrows the land worked by your helots. The list is a bushel of barley, 8 gallons of wine, 5 pounds of cheese, 2.5 pounds of figs, and a small amount of money for meat or fish. Failure to make this contribution, for any reason, is catastrophic. You would be immediately stripped of your citizenship, losing your rights and your place at the table. You would become a trespass, an outcast in your own society. This economic requirement is the great filter that keeps the citizen body exclusive and tied to the land. You take your seat on the hard wooden bench. The food is served. It is, as always, simple and meager. The centerpiece is the infamous black broth, the melis moss. It looks and smells exactly as unappetizing as its reputation suggests. But you eat it without complaint. This is the food of equals. The 2 kings of Sparta eat the same broth at their own mess, a powerful symbol of the city's rejection of luxury. The atmosphere in the room is a strange mix of tension and camaraderie. This is where reputations are made and destroyed. The conversation is a constant probing ground, full of the sharp, laconic humor you were raised on. You are tested, mocked, and carting wisdom through gruff anecdotes. Political matters are discussed, and opinions are formed. Your behavior here is constantly scrutinized, showing too much appetite, speaking out of turn, failing to take a joke. All these are signs of a weak character. Historians still debate the true feeling of these nightly dinners. Were they genuinely warm gatherings of comrades, forging the bonds that made the phalanx invincible, or were they nightly tribunals, fraught with anxiety and the constant pressure to perform? The truth is likely a complex mix of both. These are the men you will trust with your life in battle. The bond is real, forged in shared hardship, but that bond is maintained through relentless mutual assessment. It's a friendship built on a foundation of judgment. This room is your real family, your real home. Your worth as a man is not decided in the quiet of your marital chamber, but here in the noise and smoke of the mess hall under the watchful eyes of your peers. The black broth has been consumed, the meager rations of bread and cheese distributed. Now, the real meal begins, the conversation. This is the intellectual and psychological gymnasium of the Spartan citizen, and the primary exercise is a unique and brutal form of humor. It is nothing like the witty banter of an Athenian symposium. It is sharp, pointed, and often cruel, designed as another tool for toughening the mind. You learn quickly to navigate this treacherous terrain. The tone is set by the oldest man in the SYS Citian. He might pose a question to one of the younger members, not for information, but as a test. He might say, pointing a finger at a new member across the table. What is the most useful law in Sparta? The young man must answer quickly, pithily, and intelligently. A fumbling or foolish answer will be met with groans and cutting remarks from around the table. But the most common form of interaction is direct, personal mockery. It's a verbal sparring match where the goal is to expose a weakness in your opponent's character and to withstand attacks on your own without showing a flicker of distress. If you are known to be a bit slow on the uptake, a joke will be made about your wits. If you showed even a moment of hesitation during the morning's drill, it will be recounted in a dry, sarcastic tone for all to hear. If you have a prominent nose or large ears, they become fair game. One evening an older man turns to you. "I hear your new son cries loudly," he says, his voice carrying across the hall. "Are you sure his mother didn't lie with the helot?" He sounds more like a slave complaining than a Spartan. The accusation is absurd, but it has a point. It's a jab at your lineage, at your wife, at your son's potential. The room goes quiet. Everyone is watching you. Getting angry would be a catastrophic failure. It would show that the insult found its mark, that you are thin-skinned. A long defensive explanation would be just as bad, a sign of weakness and self-indulgence. You must respond with a laconic retort that is just as sharp, if not sharper. You pause for a moment, meeting his gaze. "He cries now," you say calmly, "so that he will have no tears left to waste when he stands over the bodies of our enemies." A few of the men let out a short bark of a laugh. The old man gives a slight nod of approval. You have passed the test. You turn the insult into a statement of Spartan virtue. You have shown you can think on your feet and maintain your composure under fire. This is not just banter, it's training for the psychological pressures of the battlefield. It's about learning to deflect fear and shame with a shield of wit. Plutarch, in his Life of Lycurgus, describes this practice explicitly. He says the humor was never scurrilous, meaning it wasn't just vulgar abuse. It was always meant to be instructive. The target of the joke was expected to take it in good spirits, and if he couldn't, he could ask the jester to stop, and they would. However, whether asking someone to stop was seen as a sign of weakness is a question Plutarch doesn't quite answer. The social pressure to endure the mockery must have been immense. A particularly strange and little-known form of this verbal jousting involved music. While you were taught poetry and philosophy, you were taught choral singing and basic lyre playing. Music was seen as a tool for instilling order, rhythm, and discipline. At the mess, men would be called upon to sing. The songs were not love ballads but hymns to the gods and praise for fallen heroes. After the song, the critique would begin, just as pointed and harsh as any other. You sang that like a man asking for directions, not a man marching to his death. This constant barrage of criticism, this culture of roasting, seems brutal to a modern mind. But for you, it's normal. It's how you communicate. It's how you show affection, in a backhanded sort of way. It is the abrasive process by which the collective identity of the group is polished, smoothing away any rough edges of individualism or sensitivity. You are learning that your personal feelings are irrelevant. All that matters is your performance, your utility to the group. The sharpest jokes are just another form of the whip, conditioning you not to cry out, to endure, to be unshakable. In the mess hall as on the battlefield, the man who flinches is the man who fails. Years pass. You are no longer a young man, but a seasoned warrior in your prime. You have several sons of your own, boys who are now making their own way through the brutal embrace of the agoge. Your marriage has settled into its comfortable, distant rhythm. You've been allowed to leave the barracks and establish your own household, but your nights are still spent at the mess. One evening, after the meal, an older comrade from your SYS Citian pulls you aside. His name is Lykyrgos. He is a respected veteran, a man whose courage is beyond question. But he is now well past his prime. His wife is younger, still of childbearing age, but his own sons are grown, and he has no heir to carry on his name in the next generation. He makes a request that would be scandalous, unthinkable, in any other Greek city. He asks you to sleep with his wife. He is not accusing his wife of infidelity. He is making a calculated, pragmatic proposal for the good of the state and his own lineage. He has observed you. You are strong, you are a proven warrior, and you have produced healthy, vigorous sons. You are, in his eyes, prime breeding stock. He, on the other hand, is aging. He fears that any child he might father now would be less than ideal. So he wants to borrow your vitality to produce a superior offspring for Sparta. The child born from this union would be legally and socially his. It would carry his name, inherit his land, and honor him as a father. You would simply be the biological sire for hire, performing a civic service. This is the infamous Spartan practice that modern scholars often refer to as wife sharing, though it's more accurately a form of state-sanctioned eugenic surrogacy. This wasn't a decadent, swinging free-for-all. It was a serious, quasi-official arrangement governed by unwritten rules and a powerful sense of duty. The primary goal of marriage, after all, was not love or fidelity, it was the production of high-quality citizens. If a husband was too old, or infertile, or simply believed another man possessed superior genetic traits, it was considered not just acceptable but honorable to invite that man to impregnate his wife. The logic, as explained by Xenophon, was impeccable from a Spartan point of view. Lycurgus, the mythical lawgiver, saw that most people were possessive and jealous, and would lock their wives away, even if they themselves were old or infirm, thus producing weak children or no children at all. He believed this was foolish, so he instituted a system where a man could choose a partner for his wife, whom he admired for his wife, whom he admired for his physical and moral qualities, and a woman could, with her husband's permission, find another man to help her bear fine children. The ultimate goal was always the same: to strengthen the state by improving the herd. So you stand there faced with this request. To refuse would be an insult to Lycurgus. It would imply you think his wife is unworthy or that you are unwilling to perform your duty. To accept is to engage in an act that feels profoundly strange, yet is framed as a patriotic honor. You look at Lycurgus, at his weathered face and his earnest, worried eyes. He is not asking this for his own pleasure. He is asking it for the future of his line, for the future of his line, for the future of... Historians debate how common this practice actually was. Was it a frequent occurrence, or a rare exception for specific circumstances? The evidence is sparse, coming from our usual cast of fascinated outsiders like Xenophon and Plutarch. It's also unclear what role the wife played in this decision. Could she refuse? Could she propose a partner herself? The sources, being male-centric, tend to frame it as a transaction between two men. However, given the unusual authority and confidence of Spartan women, it's hard to imagine they were simply passive pawns in these arrangements. A woman's consent was likely a crucial, if unstated, part of the equation. A little known but relevant detail is that Spartan inheritance laws were also unique. Property, particularly land, could be passed down through the female line. This gave women significant economic power and influence, making their approval in such matters even more essential. You give Lycurgus your answer. You agree. It is your duty. The arrangement is made with quiet discretion. There is no romance, no intrigue. It is a clinical procedure. You will visit his wife, just as you once visited your own, under the cover of darkness. The child that may result will be his legacy, not yours. You are merely a tool, a healthy seed provided for a neighbor's field. It is perhaps the ultimate expression of Spartan collectivism. Even your own genetic material does not truly belong to you. It is a resource to be deployed by the community as needed. The arrangement with Lycurgus' wife is carried out with the same dispassionate efficiency as a military drill. Life moves on. Your own sons are growing within the agoge, their personalities being systematically sanded down and reshaped by the state. Your daughter is learning to run and wrestle, her future as a mother of warriors already charted. You observe your family, and the families around you, and you begin to contemplate the strange nature of affection in this city without romance. Where does love reside in Sparta? It's a difficult question. The passionate or consuming love lauded by poets, the eros that dogmatically suppressed. It's seen as a dangerous, destabilizing force. The fierce, possessive love of a parent for a child is also discouraged, subordinated to the needs of the collective. So what is left? You see it in subtle, unexpected places. You see it in the mess hall, in the quiet camaraderie between aging veterans who have fought side by side for decades. It's a not a soft or tender affection. It's a bond forged in shared violence and absolute trust. A love expressed through gruff insults and the unspoken certainty that the man next to you would die for you without a second thought. This male bond, the love between comrades, is the most celebrated and socially acceptable form of love in your world. You see a different kind of affection between your wife and her own mother. It's a practical, no-nonsense relationship, built on shared knowledge of running a household, managing the helots on their family estate, and understanding the complex tapestry of Spartan social obligations. There is a deep, abiding respect there, a recognition of their shared strength and resilience in a world governed by men. And what of your own marriage after years of clandestine meetings and a life lived largely apart? What is the nature of the bond between you and your wife? It is not romance, but it is not nothing. It has become a partnership, a successful joint venture. There is a shared pride in your children, in their strength and discipline. There is a mutual respect for the roles you both play. You are the warrior, the provider of security and status. She is the manager of the estate, the producer of heirs, the guardian of the household. It's a relationship built on competence and duty, not on whispered sweet nothings. This lack of romantic emphasis doesn't necessarily mean a lack of all feeling. It's a subject historians continue to explore. Perhaps love simply manifested differently, in ways that are hard for us, and even for other ancient Greeks to recognize. The historian Plutarch tells a story that offers a fascinating glimpse. He says that Spartan men, even after they were allowed to live at home, would still visit their wives with a degree of caution and secrecy, as if they were still young. He suggests this was a way to keep the relationship from growing stale. Is this just a continuation of habit, or is it a sign of a kind of playful, enduring affection, a private game played by a long-married couple that's impossible to say for sure? A little-known aspect of Spartan family life is the powerful role of the maternal grandfather. Since you, the father, were largely absent during your son's early years, the grandfather on the mother's side often became the dominant male figure in a young boy's life before the agoge. This created strong matrilineal ties that are often overlooked. The love a boy might feel for a father figure was often directed towards his grandfather. You watch your wife interacting with your son on one of your visits. He has a cut on his knee from playing. He runs to her, not crying but showing her the wound with a serious expression. She doesn't coddle him. She inspects it with a critical eye, cleans it with wine and a cloth, and tells him that a real Spartan doesn't even notice a scratch like that. Her voice is firm, but her hands are steady and gentle. It is not about soothing his pain, but about teaching him how to endure it. It is an affection aimed not at the child's present comfort, but at his future survival. In this city, love is not a fire that warms the hearth. It is the hard, cold steel of a sword, forged to protect, to endure, and to serve the state. It is found in the nod of a mentor, the shared silence of a comrade, and the tough, unsentimental pride of a mother turning her son into a soldier. It's a stark and challenging landscape for the heart, but it is the only one you have ever known. Your daughter is now a young woman. She is strong, confident, and, like all the women in your family, surprisingly outspoken. One day, you are dealing with a dispute over a piece of land that borders your Kailaros. The argument is with a neighboring family, and the discussion is becoming heated. To your surprise, your wife and daughter join the conversation, not as silent observers but as active participants. Your daughter points out a landmark mentioned in an old property agreement. Her argument clear and logical. The neighboring patriarch, though annoyed, listens to her with a grudging respect. This moment brings home a reality. that constantly shocks outsiders the remarkable power and freedom of Spartan women. While their Athenian counterparts live in seclusion, uneducated and legally invisible, Spartan women own property, inherit wealth, and manage large estates. They are not just accessories to their husbands, they are economic powerhouses in their own right. This economic independence is the key to their unique status. The system of land ownership is the foundation. While your Cal arrows, your allotment of public land, will pass to your son, private property, including land, money, and possessions, can be inherited by and bequeathed to women. Over time, through dowries, inheritances, and the deaths of male relatives in Sparta's course, women came to control a staggering amount of the nation's wealth. The philosopher Aristotle, a harsh critic of Sparta, complained in the 4th century BCE that women owned nearly 2/5 of all the land. He blamed this gynecogracia rule by women for Sparta's decline. This financial clout translates directly into social influence. A wealthy heiress is a powerful figure. Her choice of husband or her father's choice for her is a major strategic decision for the families involved. She is not a passive bride-to-be, but a major asset. This economic power is likely why Spartan women were famously confident and educated, at least compared to other Greek women. They needed to be literate and numerate to manage their estates, oversee the helots, and handle business affairs, especially since the men were so often preoccupied with military matters. You see this in your own household. Your wife is the one who directs the helots, who decides which crops to plant, who manages the budget. You are the Minister of Defense. She is the CEO. It's a partnership of specialists. This division of labor is efficient, and it gives her a domain where her authority is absolute. A fascinating and little-known detail is that this female wealth might have contributed to one of Sparta's biggest problems, a shrinking citizen body. Because heiresses could consolidate multiple estates through marriage, wealth became concentrated in the hands of fewer and fewer families. This led to a growing number of Spartan men who were too to pay their dues to the Sys Citian, causing them to lose their citizenship. Aristotle's complaint wasn't just misogyny, it was an observation of a real economic trend that had profound social consequences. The women's physical freedom, their nudity in exercise, and their public participation in festivals were all part of this same package. They were not delicate, hidden flowers. They were robust, visible, and vocal members of society. Their famous wit, like the retort of Queen Gorgo, was a product of this confidence. They were raised to speak their minds, at least within the accepted boundaries of Spartan society. Historians still debate the true extent of their power. Did their economic influence translate into direct political power? Almost certainly not. The official levels of power, the Ephorote, the Gerisaiae, were exclusively male. However, it's naive to think that these wealthy, educated, and formidable women did not exert significant influence behind the scenes, through their husbands, sons, and brothers. They were the mothers and wives of the ruling class, and they controlled a huge portion of its wealth. Their opinions mattered. As you watch your daughter calmly and confidently argue her point about the land boundary, you feel a sense of pride. It's the same pride you feel when you see your son excel in the GE. She is competent. She is competent. She is strong. She is a true Spartan. Her power is not the same as yours, but it is real, and it is essential to the functioning of your strange, contradictory city. You are at a religious festival, one of the few times the entire community gathers. The mood is meant to be celebratory, but a shadow hangs over a certain part of the proceedings. As a procession marches through the city center, a group of men are pulled from the crowd by the EP horse. They are not criminals. They are not helots, full citizens. But they share one common trait: they are bachelors, or they are married but have failed to produce any children. What happens next is a ritual of public humiliation. These men are forced to march in a circle naked, in the middle of the public square. It doesn't matter if it's the height of summer or the dead of winter. As they walk, they are compelled to sing a song composed for the occasion. The lyrics are degrading, proclaiming that they are being justly punished for disobeying the laws. The crowd, including the city's women and children, watches them. The shame is palpable. A heavy, suffocating blanket. This is the state's response to childlessness. In a society where the production of new soldiers is the primary objective of domestic policy, to fail in this duty is a serious offense against the community. Your worth as a man is not just tied to your prowess in battle, but to your ability to procreate. A warrior who cannot or will not father the next generation is seen as a shirker, a man who is failing to contribute to Sparta's future. This public shaming serves as a powerful stick. It's a constant reminder to every young man of his civic obligation to marry and have children. But it also reveals the deep-seated anxiety at the heart of Spartan society, the fear of demographic decline. Sparta was always a state with a dangerously small citizen body. Every man lost in battle, every infant who failed the inspection at the Apo the Te, every marriage that remained barren, was a blow to the state's strength. The citizen population was a precious, finite resource that was constantly at risk of dwindling away. The pressure wasn't just on the men. While women who failed to conceive were not publicly shamed in the same way, they certainly faced social stigma. A barren wife could, in some cases, be set aside, or her husband might be encouraged to take another woman or utilize a friend to produce an heir. A woman's honor and status were inextricably linked to her fertility. A touching and strange little anecdote from the ancient sources tells of the shrine to Hera at Sparta, where women would pray for a good conception and healthy children, highlighting how central this was to their lives. Historians argue about the precise legal framework for these punishments. Were they ancient traditions, as Plutarch suggests, laid down by the mythical Lycurgus, or were they later measures enacted as Sparta's population crisis became more acute in the 4th and 3rd centuries BC? The very existence of such laws shows how seriously the state took the issue. This wasn't a private matter of personal choice, it was a public crisis demanding a public response. You watch the men in the square, their faces grim masks of stoicism as they endure their humiliation. You know some of them. One is a brave soldier who has fought in a dozen campaigns. Another is a man from a good family. It doesn't matter. In this moment, their past deeds are irrelevant. They have failed in their procreative duty, and for that, they must be shamed. It's a brutal, but effective, form of social engineering. It makes the abstract concept of civic duty intensely personal and unavoidable. This obsession with population explains so many of Sparta's other strange customs. It explains the eugenic mindset, the focus on female fitness, the practice of wife sharing. All of these were tools designed to maximize the quantity and quality of Spartan offspring. The state was engaged in a desperate, centuries-long battle against extinction, and every citizen's body was a soldier in that war. As the procession moves on, the shamed men are allowed to melt back into the crowd, the ritual complete. But the message has been delivered, loud and clear, to every man, woman, and child present. In Sparta, you are your brother's keeper, but more importantly, you are your city's creator. To be childless is to be a dead end, a failure in the single most important task asked of you to ensure that Sparta itself does not die. Life in Sparta is governed by a complex web of unwritten rules and strange traditions. But the formal political structure of your city is just as peculiar as its social customs. At the top of this structure, you don't have one king, you have two. This is the Spartan diarchy, a system unique in the Greek world and a source of constant curiosity for outsiders. You see them regularly. They are not draped in gold or surrounded by fawning courtiers like the kings of Persia. They are men just like you, who eat the same black broth in their own SYS Citian. They dress in the same simple crimson cloak. They train and are expected to fight at the front of the phalanx, but they are also your hereditary rulers, your high priests, and your commanders-in-chief in times of war. The two kings come from two separate royal families, the Aegiads and the Eurypontids. Both families claim direct descent from the hero Heracles, a lineage that gives them immense religious and social prestige. The existence of two lines is a historical oddity that scholars still debate. Was it the result of a long-forgotten political compromise between two powerful tribes, or, as the Spartans themselves sometimes claimed, did it originate from a set of royal twins, whose mother couldn't or wouldn't say which was born first, forcing the state to accept both as king whatever its origin? This system has a profound effect on Spartan politics. The primary function of having two kings is to act as a check on power. It is very difficult for one king to become a tyrant when there is another king of equal status watching his every move. They are rivals as much as they are colleagues. If one king proposes a controversial policy, the other can oppose it. This internal friction is a built-in safeguard against the abuse of power, a key feature of the mixed constitution that so many ancient philosophers, like Aristotle and Polybius, admired. In your daily life, you see this division of authority play out. One king might lead the army out on a campaign, while the other remains in Sparta to manage domestic affairs and religious duties. This ensures the city is never without a leader. Their powers, while great, are not absolute. They are members of the Geras, i.e. the Council of Elders, but they only have one vote each, the same as any other member. Their main role is to lead in war and to serve as the chief priests of the state, officiating at all the major public sacrifices. A quirky and little-known fact about the king's religious duties is their role as the Pythio. Each king would appoint two officials whose sole job was to travel to the oracle at Delphi to consult the god Apollo. This direct line to the most respected oracle in Greece was a significant source of their authority, and the god's will, as interpreted at Delphi, often guided Spartan foreign policy, and the kings were the conduits for that divine guidance. However, the kings are not unaccountable. Their power is constrained not just by each other, but by another, even stranger, political body, the ephors. You see the 5 ephors, elected annually, moving through the city. They have immense power. They can prosecute and depose the kings. They preside over the Geras and the assembly, and they hold supreme authority over the agoge. They are the true masters of Sparta in many ways. There is a famous monthly ritual where the ephors and the kings exchange oaths. The kings swear to rule according to the laws of the city, and the ephors, on behalf of the city, swear to uphold the kingship as long as they keep their oath. It's a monthly reminder that the king's power is conditional, granted by the community and its laws, not absolute. This complex system of checks and balances to kings, an elected ephorote, and an aristocratic council of elders is what makes your government so stable and so resistant to the cycles of tyranny and revolution that plagued other Greek cities. But for you, the average citizen, the most important thing about your kings is their role as leaders in battle. When the army marches out, one of your kings marches at its head. He is not in the rear, directing from a safe distance. He is in the front rank of the phalanx, with his personal guard of 300 elite warriors, ready to fight and die with his men. This is the ultimate source of their legitimacy. They are not just rulers, they are the first soldiers of Sparta. The years have been relentless. The constant training, the sparse food, the unforgiving wars, they have all taken their toll. Your body, once a perfect weapon, is now beginning to share the wear of a lifetime of service. Your speed has lessened. Your strength is not what it once was. You have reached the age of 60. Your time as a frontline soldier is over. For many men in the ancient world, this would be a time to retire to a quiet life, to enjoy their family and their farm. But you are a Spartan. Service never truly ends, it merely changes form. You are now eligible for the highest honor your society can bestow upon an old soldier, a seat on the Geras, the Council of Elders. The Geras is the Supreme Court and the primary legislative body of Sparta. It consists of 28 men, all over the age of 60, plus the 2 kings. These are the wisest, most respected, and most experienced men in the state. They hold their positions for life. When a member dies, an election is held to fill his place, and the election process is, like everything else in Sparta, a very strange affair. You decide to put your name forward. You have a good reputation. You have served with honor. You have raised strong sons. You believe you have the wisdom to guide the state. The election is conducted in the public assembly, where all male citizens over 30 can attend. But it's not a vote by ballot or a show of hands. It is a vote by shouting. The candidates, including you, are brought before the assembly and presented one by one. You are then led away to a nearby room where you must wait in total silence. You cannot see or hear the proceedings. Back in the assembly, a group of judges is sequestered in another building, close enough to hear the crowd, but not to see which candidate is being presented. The herald calls for the assembly to show their support for each candidate as he is announced. The crowd responds by shouting, cheering, and stamping their feet. The judges, listening from their isolated room, simply have to decide which candidate received the loudest and most sustained applause. It is, essentially, an election by human clapometer. Plutarch described this process with a certain degree of bemusement, calling it childish. But for you, waiting in the silence of that room, it is anything but. Your entire life's reputation is being judged by the volume of your peers' shouts. You hear the muffled draw for the first candidate, then the second. The sound swells and fades, an indistinct wave of noise. You try to gauge the volume to guess your chances. Then, it's your turn. Your name is announced. A roar erupts from the assembly hall. It seems loud to you, powerful, but is it louder than the others? You have no way of knowing. This peculiar method of voting is a subject of debate for historians. Was it a primitive holdover from an earlier, less formal time, or was it a clever way to ensure that only the most popular and universally respected men were elected, as it would be hard for a small, conspiratorial faction to outshout the entire community? The judges confer. After what feels like an eternity, the decision is made. A herald comes to the waiting room. He calls out a name. It is not yours. You have lost. You show nothing. You walk back out into the public square with the same stoic expression you have worn your entire life. There is no shame in losing election. For the JRSIA to have been considered a worthy candidate is an honor in itself. For the man who won, the honor is immense. He is crowned with a garland and spends the rest of the day being celebrated, with young untold praising his virtues. He will now serve for the rest of his life as one of the ultimate arbiters of Spartan law and policy. He will have the power to propose laws, to act as a judge in capital cases including those against the kings, and to guide the state with the wisdom of his experience. This is the final destination for a Spartan man. You begin your life being judged by old men, and if you are very successful and very lucky, you end your life as one of them, judging others. It's a closed circle. Though you were not chosen this time, you have found your new role. You are no longer a soldier on the front line, but a veteran, an elder. Your job now is to sit in the mess hall, to tell your stories, to ask the hard questions of the young men, to pass on the traditions, and to be the living memory of the state. Your weapon is no longer the spear, but your voice and your wisdom. The service continues. You sit in the warmth of the afternoon sun, a privilege of age you now allow yourself. The frantic energy of your youth has given way to a slower, more observational rhythm. From this vantage point, you begin to notice things you were too busy to see before. The cracks, small at first but growing, that are appearing in the perfect, rigid edifice of your society. You are witnessing the beginning of the end, the long, slow twilight of Sparta. The most glaring problem is the silence. There are fewer children playing in the streets. The agoge herds are smaller than they were in your day. The ranks of the phalanx, when drawn up for festivals, look thinner. The relentless focus on quality over quantity, the brutal culling of the weak, the constant casualties of war, and the strange marriage customs have all contributed to a demographic death spiral. The citizen body, the Homo ioi or equals, is shrinking. And as your numbers dwindle, your grip on the vast, resentful helot population becomes more and more precarious. You see the economic signs as well. The wealth of the state, once distributed with a semblance of equality through the Kale Arrow system, is now concentrated in the hands of a few powerful families. You see men, good soldiers from respected lines, who can no longer afford the monthly contributions to their SYS citizen. You watch them suffer the ultimate disgrace, losing their citizenship and becoming inferiors, men who live in the city but have no political rights and no place at the mess hall table. The ideal of a brotherhood of equals is crumbling under the weight of economic inequality. This decline was punctuated by moments of shocking military defeat. For generations, the Spartan phalanx was considered invincible on land. The very name Spartan was a weapon in itself. But then came the Battle of Leuctra in 371 BC. You remember the day the news arrived. It was a physical blow to the city, a shockwave of disbelief followed by a grim, silent grief. The Thebans, under the brilliant General Epaminondas, had not just defeated a Spartan army, they had shattered it. They used a novel tactic, waiting their left flank and smashing through the Spartan right, where the king and his elite guard stood. The king, Cleo MB Rotasai, was killed, and hundreds of Spartiates fell with him. It was a catastrophic loss of life from an already shallow pool of citizens. The aftermath of Leuctra was just as devastating. The Thebans marched into the Peloponnese and did the unthinkable. They liberated Messenia, the homeland of the majority of your helots. The land that had fed Sparta for centuries was lost. The economic foundation of your entire way of life was ripped out from under you. The newly freed Messenians built their own fortified city, Megalopolis, a permanent dagger pointed at Sparta's heart. The response to the defeat at Leuctra is a telling, if apocryphal, story. When the survivors, the tremblers who had fled the battle, returned home, there was a crisis. By law, they should have been stripped of all honors and subjected to public humiliation. But there were so many of them, from the most powerful families, that to enforce the law would have torn the state apart. So Agesilaus, the surviving king, decreed that the laws should sleep for a day. It was a pragmatic solution, but also a sign of profound weakness. The unbending laws of Sparta had been forced to bend. In the years that follow, you see the changes accelerate. Fun money begins to trickle in, corrupting the old ideals of austerity. Men start to build more luxurious houses. The women, who now control even more of the land and wealth, are seen by critics like Aristotle as living lives of indulgence. The old discipline, the iron will of the state, is rusting from the inside out. Historians still debate the primary cause of Sparta's decline. Was it the demographic crisis, the oligarchy or shortage of men? Was it the economic inequality and the erosion of the equals class? Was it military defeat and the loss of Messenia? Or was it a simple failure to adapt, a rigid system that was perfectly designed for one particular environment but shattered when that environment changed? The answer is likely all of the above. Sparta was a magnificent, terrifying, perfectly tuned machine that had forgotten how to evolve. You look at your grandchildren, and you wonder what kind of Sparta they will inherit. The old certainties are gone. The fear of the helots has been replaced by the fear of irrelevance. You, who were born at the zenith of Spartan power, are now living to see its dusk. The city is still here, the traditions are still observed, but the spirit, the unshakable confidence that defined you, is fading. In your old age, you find you have time for something you never had before: reflection. You sit in the agora, the public square, and watch the few foreigners who now pass through Sparta with more frequency. Merchants, diplomats, curious travelers. You see the way they look at you, at your city. It's a mixture of awe, fear, and a kind of clinical curiosity, as if they are observing a strange and dangerous animal in a zoo. You start to wonder, what do they say about us when they go home? How will history remember Sparta? You realize that most of what the world will ever know about you will be written by your enemies and your rivals. Primarily, the Athenians. They are the great talkers, the writers, the historians, the philosophers. They are the ones who will shape your legacy. And their perspective is deeply colored by their own values, which are the polar opposite of yours. They value democracy, you value oligarchy. They value free expression, you value disciplined silence. They value individualism, you value the collective. You imagine an Athenian historian, sitting in his comfortable study, surrounded by scrolls, writing about your life. He would describe the agoge not as a crucible for forging heroes, but as a system of institutionalized child abuse. He would see the crypti as a grim necessity of state security, but as a campaign of wanton murder. He would paint the public exercise of your women not as a sign of their strength and freedom, but as evidence of moral depravity and licentious. He would call you laconic but mean uneducated. He would call you brave but mean brutish. He would acknowledge your military prowess but condemn your lack of art, poetry, and philosophy. To him, you are the other, the dark mirror to Athens' bright light of civilization. A society of brainwashed, joyless killing machines. And some of it, you have to admit in the quiet of your own mind, has a kernel of truth. Your life has not been one of joy, it has been one of duty, pain, and discipline. You have sacrificed everything: family, love, personal freedom for the state. But the Athenian writer would not understand the why. He could never comprehend the existential terror of living on a knife's edge, outnumbered 10 to 1 by a population that dreams nightly of your destruction. He could not feel the profound sense of security and belonging that comes from being part of an unbreakable whole, a phalanx where every man is your brother. He would not understand the quiet pride in a system that for centuries produced the finest soldiers the world had ever known. This gap in understanding is a source of endless debate for future historians. They will call it the Spartan mirage. The image of Sparta, created mostly by non-Spartans, is a blend of fact and fiction, admiration and condemnation. Was Sparta really the perfect, incorporeal state that admirers like Xenophon described, or was it the cruel, stagnant, and intellectually barren society that critics like Aristotle decried? The truth, as you know from living it, is far more complex and contradictory than any outsider could ever grasp. A strange and little-known example of this mirage is the story of the Battle of Thermopylae. The 300 Spartans. It will become your city's most enduring legend. But the Athenians and others who write the histories will often downplay the fact that there were thousands of other Greeks fighting alongside Leonidas and his men. The focus will be on you. On the 300th, you will be turned into symbols, icons of heroic sacrifice. This is both a blessing and a curse. It grants you immortality, but it also flattens your reality, turning you from complex human beings into one-dimensional action heroes. Your entire strange society will be reduced to a single battle cry. As you sit there, you feel a sense of weary resignation. You cannot control your own story. It belongs to others now. They will pick apart your customs, judge your morality through the lens of their own, and turn your life into a lesson or a warning. They will never truly understand the silent language of the mess hall, the terror and necessity of the cryptia, or the strange, fierce love of a mother telling her son to come home with his shield, or on it. But they cannot see the purpose. They see the discipline, but they cannot see the fear that made it necessary. You are a footnote in their history, a caricature in their plays, and there is nothing you can do about it. The light that filters through the window of your small home is soft and gold. You are old now, truly old. The spear has long been hung on the wall, a relic of a life that feels like it belongs to another man. Your days are spent here, wrapped in a coarse wool blanket, your days often settling on the unchanging, jagged line of Mount Tagus in the distance. It was there when you were born, a silent witness to your judgment. It is here now, as you prepare to leave. In these quiet final hours, your long life unspools not like a series of dramatic events, but as a meditation on a single phrase, one that has defined you since childhood. The phrase your mother spoke, her face a mask of iron resolve, the day you first left for war. With it, or on it, come back carrying your shield in victory, or be carried back upon it in death. For most of your life, you understood this as a simple, brutal command. A choice between honor and disgrace. To drop your shield and flee was the ultimate act of cowardice, the unforgivable sin. The shield, the heavy bronze-faced aspis, was not just your protection, it was the man's next to you. In the phalanx, your shield protected the left side of your body and the right side of your comrade. To drop it was to betray him, to break the wall, to sacrifice the whole for the self. It was the physical manifestation of your duty to the collective. But now, in the quiet of this room, you understand it on a deeper level. The shield wasn't just a piece of equipment. It was the weight of your entire existence. You feel its phantom heft on your arm even now. It was the crushing discipline of the agoge. It was the cold terror of the cryptia. It was the awkward, stolen nights with your new bride. It was the bitter taste of black broth in the mess hall. It was the silent judgment of your peers. It was the heavy burden of producing sons for the state. To live as a Spartan was to carry that shield every single day, in every single action. With it didn't just mean returning from a single battle. It meant living your entire life without faltering, without dropping the immense weight of your obligations. You now appreciate the grim practicality of the phrase. A little-known fact that only a soldier would truly understand is that you couldn't run while holding an aspis. It was too heavy, too cumbersome. The first thing a fleeing soldier did was drop his shield, So a man who returned with his shield was, by definition, a man who had not run. The phrase was a piece of battlefield forensics, a simple proof of courage. And the second part, on it the auspice was wide and concave, just large enough to serve as a makeshift stretcher to carry a fallen man from the field. It was your final chariot, your last ride home, borne on the shoulders of the brothers you died to protect. Historians in the future, men from Athens or Rome, will argue about this. Was this phrase truly something every mother said to every son, or was it a piece of a later myth, a pithy summary created to capture the essence of the Spartan mirage? You smile a little. Does it matter? The sentiment was real, woven into the very fabric of your being, whether the words were spoken literally or not. Your breathing is shallow now. The sounds of the city outside, a dog barking, the clang of a blacksmith's hammer are beginning to fade, as if coming from a great distance. You close your eyes. You see your life not as a hero's tale, but as a long, grueling march, shield on arm. You held it. You did not falter. You are not returning victorious from some great battle. You are simply at the end of your watch. The duty is done. The weight can finally be set down. There is only the shield, waiting to carry you home. The world of Sparta, with its sharp edges and its cold, hard light, begins to dissolve. The stone walls of the room grow soft. The jagged peak of the mountain outside blurs into a gentle slope. The life you have just walked through, with all its struggle and its strange, stark beauty, is now just an echo, a whisper in the back of your mind. Let it fade. Let the discipline of the agoge, the tension of the mess hall, the chill of the nocturnal visits all melt away into the quiet, warm darkness that is now gathering around you. There is no more duty to be done, no test to be passed. The voice telling the story is receding, becoming just another sound in the room, like the soft hum of the fan or the gentle sigh of the wind outside your own window. You can feel the weight of your own pillow. The journey is over. You are back in the safety of your own bed, in the quiet of your own night. All that is left to do is to drift. Let the current of sleep take you, carrying you away from the shores of Laconia, out into the deep, peaceful ocean of your own dreams. The echoes of the past are now just gentle waves, lulling you, rocking you, into a quiet and profound rest. Your journey for tonight is complete. The end of the article. Good night.